Why do we drink? Why do you drink? Many people use alcohol to reduce the burden of everyday life, or at least that's the excuse we tell ourselves while pouring that extra glass of wine at the end of the day. Feeling depressed, overworked, or angry are often the reasons why we drink. We, however, never take into consideration the mental health side effects that can result from drinking too much, even when it helps with calming the nerves somewhat. Alcoholism destroys lives, families, and careers, but yet the message doesn't seem to come across. Today, we're joined by clinical psychologist Quentin Ferreira, who's had first-hand experience in dealing with patients with alcohol-related issues. Good morning, Quentin. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Eben. Thank you for having me.
We're one of the biggest binge-drinking nations in the world. Chronic use of alcohol in South Africa is now well documented. What does it tell us? Are we slowly killing ourselves? Are we losing a grip on this problem we're having with alcohol? Or is it a little bit overstated?
Well, I think it depends on whether you classify use as abnormal. You have to sort of make a distinction between use, abuse, and dependence. So most people use alcohol moderately, and that tends to be the norm. But what you do find is certain people will drink, and then they'll have negative consequences as a result of their drinking. So conflict in relationships, maybe hungover today and don't go to work tomorrow type of thing. So that's when people start to experience very negative side effects. That over a prolonged period of time, when withdrawal and tolerance develops, you find that a person is now fully in substance dependence. So it's more abuse and dependence that are killing us slowly and painfully than just everyday kind of use.
The numbers are a little bit scary if we look at the numbers that's doing the rounds, not just surveys here, but kind of international surveys. Has alcohol become a distraction in our society, a way of suppressing emotions and not really dealing with stuff?
Absolutely. I think that's a very common thing that I tend to find. And so people drink to calm their nerves, to deal with sort of negative emotional states. And in the beginning, in the absence of any other coping skills or social support systems, they resort to alcohol, and it eases the sort of stress for a while. But over time, you find that alcohol is a drug, so it hijacks the pleasure systems of the brain. So that person will keep drinking until they now need to drink not to feel ill. So they have the withdrawal symptoms, they have the tolerance, and then you're on a slippery slope.
What are the long-term effects of that and the spillover effect around you?
Well, what I tend to see is that alcohol abuse interacts with other psychological conditions and can in fact cause severe psychological conditions. I've seen alcohol-induced psychosis, a form of dementia known as Korsakov's dementia, which is due to alcohol abuse. And it doesn't just destroy a single person's life, it destroys the life of the family, people in communities. So I see the spillover effect going just way far-reaching in terms of society, I suppose.
What about the relationships around you, the family bonds, the friends and so forth? In general, the effects on that?
Yeah, I think more than people abusing alcohol, I see the effects on families. And alcohol is implicated in most cases of domestic violence as well as sexual crime as well. Yeah. So people that have been traumatized generally come to me and will say, look, I've had a history, my father drank or my partner drank, and that has caused them problems as well.
The crux of the matter, it's something that people should take very seriously and should think about when drinking. Can you ever be cured of alcoholism, truly?
Unfortunately not. I think any form of addiction is a chronic condition. Once you've gazed into the abyss of dependence, there's no way out. And people have this perception that, it's a choice or it's a moral failing to be an alcoholic, but it really is a disease. And so you can get help, you can get support, but for the rest of your life, you have to be really, really careful. It's not just the case of, oh, I was an alcoholic, but now I can drink 1 or 2 beers. It's just not like that.
Yes.
Abstinence, complete abstinence, is really the only option for someone who is substance dependent or alcohol dependent in this case.
Well, that is a very worrying factor, considering that we are the 4th biggest binge drinkers on the planet and the biggest binge drinkers on the African continent. Quentin Ferreira, thank you very much, psychologist, for joining us today. Hopefully you'll join us in the future and tell us a little bit more about our drinking and the problem that this creates in our society.